How you doing? That's fantastic. I'm glad to hear you're having an awesome day. Anyway, this video is strictly about the Pentax K-1 Mark III rumor that has circulated across the internet. Now, I don't know how credible the source itself actually is, to be honest with you. I've never heard of Parrot. Yeah, that's me, Parrot. Apparently, they name themselves Parrot because, or their handle online persona is known as Parrot because they like parrots and that kind of thing. They are purportedly using a prototype K-1 Mark III, and due to the lift of the embargo, they are now able to share some information in regards to the camera and what it has. Um, it's a German source. I don't know how Pentax Germany works. I guess, in comparison to, well, let's just be honest. In North America, it doesn't really work. So Pentax Europe, Pentax Japan, they seem to have more reach, I guess, in regards to spreading out prototypes and having testers and things like that. Why it was not announced by any of the ambassadors, I don't know. Maybe they have a separate embargo. I have no idea. Or maybe it's a planned thing of a leak. Or maybe none of this is even true. But it is very, very plausible, the information that is in here. Now, I do know I recently made a video about, what if Pentax can no longer acquire sensors for DSLR specific applications, right? It was just a question. Just wanted to spark the conversation. I do still think that is still a likely reality. Maybe not right now, but in the future, it may be more difficult to source parts, namely the sensors themselves, autofocus sensor parts, unless Pentax makes them entirely themselves. So the interesting thing I found in this is the fact that apparently Pentax will be using company's processor. The company is NXP. They're a semiconductor microcontroller company. Um, yeah, so I think I've tracked down basically what they would be using, or an idea of it. Not maybe not the same megapixel scale, but the same features and things like that. Pretty much. It's a very, very difficult website to go through. But let's get into what this apparently has, and is it plausible or is it not? Let's check out the details. Now, before we continue, let's just keep in mind that this is translated from German to English, so there may be a little bit of niggles here and there. But one thing I do want to point out, and I totally do not agree with this here, it states here, now to the question of which Pentax. Both the K12 and K33 have their place. The K33 is certainly better suited for beginners. What? No. No, 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 no. It is not suited for beginners whatsoever. That camera is so overly complicated. Beginners would no, no. I totally do not agree with this whatsoever. It's just the formats are different. But let's continue. For Rico, the K33 has to cover two markets. Let's see here. At once, the 645Z and also the full format. He's assuming the body price of around 4,000 euro, plus minus. The most important innovations: Cefox 14 autofocus system. Now, before I continue, I do find it very interesting that they're looking at this as covering two different sectors: medium format and full frame. Because as we know, the medium format line has been discontinued. There's been nothing mentioned about continuing medium format. They said they were just looking into it. So this does make sense that it'll be a high enough megapixel full frame camera to cover pixel density of medium format equivalencies and all that other scientific mathematical stuff. Yeah, so along with that, new full format sensor, again from Sony. 3 different sensors are installed in the prototypes. For the series, he's guessing they are guessing. I don't know if it's a he or a she, so could be a them or a they. We weigh. For the series, they're guessing 61 megapixel backside illuminated CMOS sensor. Later, there may be a version with lower resolution but larger pixel size for high ISO values and astrophotography. That is plausible given that Pentax is doing some very niche work here. Very fast image sequence. Pentax will probably take the lead here. I don't know about them taking the lead here. That's a pretty open thing to say. My thought is it'll probably be 8, 9 frames per second, right? Faster. That's a lot faster than the K1 Mark II. Or they may do a thing where maybe crop mode will give you 12 frames per second or 11 frames per second in continuous, the way the K3 Mark III is, and say 7 frames per second in full frame mode, right? I don't see them taking the lead here. Maybe if it's DSLR specific, because the Nikon D850 does, I believe it's 8 frames per second. So even if Pentax gets 8.5 frames per second, they'll be ahead. 4K and higher video, but still not a video camera for them. USB-C 3.2 connection. And new gadgets. Joystick, which is not technically new. It's new for the K1 series. Touchscreen that can be switched off. New smart functions, including those that the K3 does not have yet. Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and new control software for cell phone with live view. I don't know. I don't know about that. Are they going to be introducing an entirely new image sync like software or app to control the camera? Or is it basically just going to be a redone version of image sync, right? Like, will it still be image sync with some capabilities that are tailored to the K1 Mark III? It's not entirely new software, but we'll have to wait until it comes out to see. The good thing that remains, GPS built in, AstroTracer built in, key illumination, which I'm guessing is the LEDs on the outside of the body. Very solid workmanship, very good feel. Of course, the optical viewfinder, but significant improvements in the information display. So it may be taking a page out of the K3 Mark III because the amount of information that's displayed within the viewfinder of the K3 Mark III is quite a lot. It gives you practically every parameter of the camera, right? I know. There's no histogram, but you know what I mean. So that was their information as of August. Okay. Now, if we go to where they continue on, so they're basically saying that after Ricoh itself confirmed last December that the K1 III is in development, the entire medium format line was officially discontinued, and the K3 III, I'm guessing they meant the K1 Mark II is no longer available from Pentax. Now, they're stating here that they know of 6 prototypes in terms of hardware. 2 of them are the same, but they have different software versions. That makes sense. There are 3 different CCD chip models. Again, CCD, that could just be a translation thing. CMOS sensor. Some people still do refer to CMOS as CCD for some reason, but we'll let this one pass. So 2 models. 2 from Sony, which differ in terms of resolution, pixel size, and type of exposure. It does not state what the third one is. For the series, I suspect the 61 megapixel sensor from Sony, but that's just a type and not knowledge. The second hardware difference is the display hinge. One version is exactly like the K1 II. Another version is very similar. There's the 4 metal rods with the ball heads, but are designed as telescopic rods, which means they can be pulled apart like old radio antennas. Good idea in itself because it makes the display even more flexible in terms of position than the current K1, but with one of them, okay, the duck pulled too hard. So I guess pulled too hard and probably pulled that post out, right? So I don't know what extent it is suitable for series production, but you can't compare prototypes with the series in all areas because there can be big difference in quality between hand production and machine production with the final tools. That is true, right? That's why they are prototypes. And the latest version has a similar solution to the Pentax 645Z, but with a second Z that is attached behind the first and rotated by 90 degrees, allowing the display to be swiveled sideways, which wasn't possible with the 645Z. It only went up and down. Interesting. So I guess it can rotate, right? Instead of just going up and down, right? The display itself has a slightly higher resolution than the K1, I'm assuming K-1 Mark II. We'll let this one slide. And is touch, which you can fortunately turn off. I don't like this gimmick. I personally don't think it's a gimmick. It is what it is. But it is very bright and also has the red night mode. Okay, that's good. Speaking of the display, it hasn't gotten worse, but whether it's gotten better is a matter of taste. But what has gotten massively better for me is the information display in the viewfinder, which is still optical and in a class of its own. Again, I think that they're taking a page out of the K3 Mark III. And to those of you who say the speed and high resolution of CCD chip clash, this is not true. A higher resolution does not necessarily mean that you have to use it to its full potential in every operating mode. Okay, now here's where it gets interesting. Furthermore, with the K1 Mark III in high speed mode, you cannot write directly to the SD cards. Two SD extra capacity slots. The images, come on. The images go to a very fast buffer, which is integrated in the NXP processor, and was responsible for the long delay in this project. So, again, this kind of goes back to my video of them having trouble acquiring the parts. It's not the supply issue. It's actually finding a company to manufacture these things specifically for them, right? Thankfully, they were able to work with NXP. They were able to get this resolved. So now we move forward, right? Let's see here. So the images then go from the buffer, which has a very wide proprietary bus, to the SD card via the normal bus. If you do this for long enough, this will of course lead to buffer overflow, which is prevented with solutions like this by slowing down the image sequence when the buffer threatens to become full. That line there, to me, is exactly how the cameras work as it is right now for Pentax, right? Once you hit your buffer limit, then it slows it down so it doesn't overrun, right? This is exactly the same as it always has been. So, yeah, this is beyond plausible. This is already existing. Maybe not to the speed that he's talking about, sorry, that they're talking about, but the operation in a nutshell is exactly the same as what we're already used to. It is also clear that functions such as pixel shift, etc., are not available at high speed mode. Now, I did see a mention somewhere that they were going to be using compact flash express cards as well. So it's both SD and compact flash express compatible. I wasn't able to pull that up again, but I did see that mentioned somewhere. Let's see here. And he just they just basically state that, you know, they're not one to spread rumors or lies because of their credibility, and that let's see here. Pentax itself admitted in Tokyo in December 2023 the K-1 was in development. Furthermore, the Pentax Rico people are anything but stupid, otherwise there would be no K-1 or K-3. They are very aware that they are currently serving a niche and that they should listen carefully to those customers if they want to assert themselves in the market. Pentax Rico are certainly not the fastest, but they think carefully about what they're doing, and if you want gimmicks like AI, you can buy Sony. See, I don't know why they put that in there. I just focus on like what is the camera going to have, right? Starting to trash talk other brands while you're trying to state, the information that you apparently have access to in regards to the K1 Mark III kind of drops your credibility down as you're just another person who knows, camera parts and manufacturers of camera parts. You can feasibly create an image in your mind of what your ideal Pentax K-1 Mark III would be and then spew that out to the internet. I am not trying to discredit Parrot by any means whatsoever. I'm just explaining how this appears to the average person who's actually reading this as we read this all together, right? Yeah, so I mean, plausibility wise, I think it is very plausible that it will be a fast full frame camera with a unique rear screen. Hopefully the lunar lander thing, because that's just freaking cool. With some enhancements, possibly 6K video, maybe downsampled to 4K, which will probably just be because that's native in whatever the chip is that Sony will be providing. Now, in regards to NXP, I believe it'll be a variation of this IMX8MP CDUG. I'm not going to get into the numbers because this does have built-in lens correction, high-speed processing, 4K. I believe this is 8 megapixels, so maybe there is, or maybe it's a 8. It processes megapixels at a time. I don't really know much in regards to the technology in the processors, the image processors themselves. Uh, the image signal processing element of things. I don't really know enough about that to really get into which version of whichever one or how the megapixels work when it's not an actual image sensor and it's a processor. I don't really know, but it seems that this will be the accelerator chip, or a variation of this will be the accelerator chip. This does seem plausible. We'll just have to wait. I believe they had said production will start in October. There was a mention. I promise you. I absolutely promise you. There was a mention that production would start in October. However, they did say Vietnam, which is interesting because I don't think they make the cameras in Vietnam. I believe it was the Philippines, but hey, maybe a different production facility. Who knows, right? But overall, I mean, this does seem to be pretty plausible. Uh, I do believe most of this. Yeah. But let me know, what do you think in regards to how plausible or believable is this rumor? I mean, there's been some rumblings online, because Parrot apparently created their profile on this forum right before they posted this. And, so people are saying, well, some of the things just don't add up. They're not a long-term forum user and things like that. Uh, Again, personally, I have no idea who this person is or how the German Pentax world works, or even the Pentax Europe one. I have no idea. Pentax has not reached out to me, which is not surprising, to give me a prototype to try out. So I really have no information whatsoever. Pretty a lot of times the users find out information before I even do. I just do the deep dive into what the information actually means and how it translates, right? So, uh, yeah, it's quite interesting. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really, really helps out. All right, peace.